Alright, yo everyone, this is Darth Bryboy.
I'm Julian.
Hey, this is my guy from Two Jews, One Mic. He also runs a YouTube channel with his girlfriend. He has his own YouTube channel, but he doesn't post shit on it.
I do not know, but if you want to follow me and over at We Love Stories, me and my partner Miriam, we review movies and anime and all that fun stuff. Go give us a watch.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to have a discussion about Into the SpiderVerse.
It was really good. I liked it a lot.
I loved it. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is a Spider-Man movie that I've kind of been waiting for a long time. And it does something to me, or it did something that hasn't been done in over a decade, and that is kind of do a subtle character study on Peter Parker and Spider-Man and what it means to be Spider-Man and the reasons of why you might want to be Spider-Man or be a superhero in general. You know, it's movies like that that I think really show what the superhero genre is capable of. And people might call it insane to call superhero movies a genre, but I think there are enough movies to clarify it as one.
For me, I think there's something to be said for doing a kind of a, I wouldn't say necessarily a done story, but yeah, we've seen the Spider-Man story a million times. There's something to be said for doing the story and doing it really well and how fun and enjoyable it is. There's nothing really, the concepts and the themes in this film aren't necessarily that unique or new, but they're done so well and they're so compelling.
So, okay, for me, when I was looking at this film, one of my favorite, I think the best Spider-Man movie, in my opinion, is still the original Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire and directed by Sam Raimi. I think the reason why, to me, that's the best overall is that it is a character study on Spider-Man, and it's mostly his arc in that film is realizing that Spider-Man isn't a mask. It's kind of weird. It's almost like Batman Mask of the Phantasm in a way. You get what I mean? Where they go into, like, it's not a costume, it's who he really is. And to me, the ultimate test of that is the fire scene, you know? And where he does save a child's life, but the ultimate tragedy of that scene is that had he had his power, had he not been so emotionally selfish, he could have saved more.
Well, I think to that point,
and it goes into Spider-Man's guilt, which is his character arc, and which is his one of his major motivations for being a hero is his guilt. His guilt that he couldn't have stopped that robber and saved his uncle. You know, that ultimate guilt that caused him so much pain.
Well, yeah, right. I think to that point, though, I think one of the things that makes Into the SpiderVerse work so well is that it takes that idea, you know, that with great power, we've heard it a million times. I think it takes that and it updates that and it doesn't make it part of the first act. It doesn't just say, oh, this is the establishing element, this is what we need to get to the action. It makes it an integral part of the character arc for Miles Morales in this film.
And Peter Parker, in a way.
Oh, yeah, and Peter Parker relearning what it means to be a hero. And I think one of the things that I think this film does so well is that it takes all these, again, these tried and true Spider-Man, I wouldn't call them cliches necessarily, but these elements that we're very familiar with in Spider-Man films. And it takes them and has so much fun with them, and it's a little tongue-in-cheek, it's very self-aware.
Oh, yeah.
But the people who wrote it clearly love this material, they clearly care about the Spider-Man mythos, and they take it in a way that's compelling. And honestly, to me, the thing this reminded me most of was watching like a good superhero cartoon. I mean, it literally is a superhero cartoon, but I mean like one of those, 90s Saturday morning ones. And honestly, this felt to me like the pilot to a really great TV show, and I don't mean that as an insult, I mean that as a compliment. I want more of this story, I want more of this universe.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was leaning towards as well, though. I kind of like to look at this as an extension on the Raimi trilogy. I could be very wrong about this, but I think in a weird way it works as a pseudo sequel to Spider-Man 3 because it kind of makes sense that I could believe this would happen to Tobey's Spider-Man, because he doesn't necessarily quit again with being Spider-Man, because that would just be repetitive and stupid. And
Spider-Man has never been repetitive and stupid.
Okay, shut the fuck up. Okay. But what I liked about it is that he is still Spider-Man, but he's almost kind of like being a man-child about it, which makes sense once again if you think of this as an extension of the Raimi movie with Spider-Man 3. Look at how he was behaving all giddy and childish because he's a fucking dweeb. He's your stereotypical nerdy dweeby character who is bad at socializing and has poor social skills. You know, I believe that this is connected. And when you look at it that way, what I love about kind of that idea of it linking, or maybe more paying homage to the Raimi series, is that, although I like to go with, it doesn't, because we go into the film analysis that nothing is accidental.
Yeah.
So I kind of look to look at it that kind of being a nail on the head that, yes, this is connected subtly to the Raimi movie.
Well, definitely I think the filmmakers, they're obviously conscious of the Raimi films.
They used the Cliff Robertson line delivery of "with great power comes great responsibility." They reused that soundbite in the movie with Uncle Ben. And if you've watched those movies multiple times, you understand that. So what I like about this, it's a passing of the torch film. And that's almost kind of what I've wanted like a Spider-Man 4 to be like, is Peter Parker not necessarily giving up on being Spider-Man, but it kind of being, you know, that he's maybe too old and that there's a new generation taking his place. And what I really loved about Miles' character is that I think on a few levels he's almost the exact opposite of Peter Parker. Like, his parents are still alive. He's got a good family unit.
But in a lot of ways, I think their characters are very similar. I think especially they're the working class hero idea, especially if you're looking at Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Like the working class hero idea, I really like, for instance, the fact that his mom, like, you can really kind of see, it's not ever in the foreground, but you can kind of tell in the background, oh, this family, you know, struggles to a degree financially, and that, like, the fact that he's in this private, he got into this private school is this big deal. And I think that I think is a really interesting thematic connection, the working class Spider-Man, and I'm kind of glad, like, I don't necessarily know if I view it as a spiritual successor to the Raimi films. I think it's conscious of them, in the sense that I think it's responding to them in a lot of ways.
Or more or less continuing the narrative themes of those.
Yeah, it's continuing a lot of the same elements, and I think that's one way they do it, where it's like, the heroes kind of identify very similar. I mean, obviously it's much more significant that, you know, Miles Morales is, you know, half black, half Hispanic, and that he's, like, really representing...
What I also like is because Spider-Man is mixed race in this film. They subtly, you know, address the struggles that he deals with. They don't really... Obviously, it's more of a kid-friendly film, so they're not going to really go real heavy on it.
Yeah. Although I kind of wish they did. That would have been really interesting.
That would have been interesting, but I don't know if that was the main focus of the film. Really?
No, I think that would be better addressed for, like...
A sequel?
Yeah, a sequel, continuation.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they address it in the comics, obviously, so it's not like they don't have material to go off of.
Yeah.
I really like also how they... one thing I really loved about the film is how they paced the other Spider-Man characters, and how much time they gave to each. Like, all the extra Spider-Man characters, you know, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, I forget the one that's, like, from the future, what their name is.
Penny Parker?
Penny Parker, yeah. They give them just enough time that they feel like...
They feel like a part of this universe. And
but they're not overdone.
But I think it's also because this has done what I think a lot of comic book movies have tried and somewhat failed at. The movies that this really kind of reminded me of, and it sounds like a weird connection, but I've watched a ton of these types of films. The Ang Lee Hulk film and the 60s Batman show. And you might think
the Ang Lee Hulk film, man. It's been a while since I've thought about that movie.
Well, you might think it's a weird connection, but I think with both of those types of films that we're trying to do, like specifically with the Batman 66 film, with those comic book font.
Yeah, it's like it's bringing back the...
But also, very much with the Ang Lee Hulk film, what that was trying to do was make it feel like a moving live-action comic.
Yeah. Well, one thing I really like is that it's not all grimdark in this. It's like feels like a comic book.
I mean, comic books can be dark, but it depends on...
Well, yeah, but I think the best comic books are ones that have a good tone balance, and this film definitely had a great tone balance.
Yeah, this one feels like it has it feels like a really well-written superhero comic. Like, it feels like the early Spider-Man comics, or maybe one of the more edgy comics of the 90s, but it feels like a good comic book, and you see that in the visual style, you see that in the editing, you see that in the pacing, you see that especially in the What's Up Danger sequence, which to me now is kind of like almost the definitive Spider-Man song in a sense, or one of them, because I'm serious.
Yeah.
That is like so Spider-Man. It's perfect for Miles Morales' character because it's him overcoming his obstacles in the films, with him being afraid of his powers and not getting them. and Peter Parker being just a shit teacher.
Again,
he's been out of practice.
I think
almost like the Last Jedi with Luke Skywalker in a way.
Yeah. Well, again, one thing I really liked about this film, and I think a lot of superhero films are getting better at this, is tone balance. I remember, like, in the Age of Ultron era of the Marvel films, where they all, like, serious and had a terrible tone balance, and, like, when they tried to be funny, they just didn't work. And then you had, like, I think the Deadpool films have a really good tone balance. Second one is a little iffy, but overall really good balance. This film is certainly, I think Infinity War had a great tone balance. We'll see if Endgame does or doesn't. I don't think it will. But, like, I think tone balance...
About Endgame.
I think tone balance is so important for, like, comic book movies. And again, shout out to this film. Amazing tone balance.
It depends on what you're going. Alright, so back to what I was saying about the good superhero films. Like, when I think of really good ones that kind of have that, the first Tim Burton Batman movie, I think does that.
Yeah.
The Nolan trilogy, or at least The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, subtly...
I think Dark Knight Rises has tone problems.
Well, unfortunately, I think Warner Brothers just kind of... Like, Nolan was like, leave me the hell alone. Like, fine, I'll make a trilogy. Actually, interesting bit of trivia. Raimi and Nolan are the only directors, I think, in superhero film history where they've done a full trilogy and it's the same director. Like, no, I kid you not. Captain America didn't have that. Avengers didn't have that. I'm not lying, man. Like, look at the...
Yeah, wow, I never thought of that.
The Schumacher... The Burton Schumacher era Batman films, well, obviously we're talking about it. But, like, I mean, they've come close, like, really close.
Yeah.
You know? To having films almost done by the same director. But, you know,
But I don't think it's necessarily director. I think it's that, like...
But anyway, we're getting off track here. But I think what I'm trying to address here is that the way I view Into the SpiderVerse, it's probably one of the most innovative superhero films I've seen in a long time. And it was almost like a mix of a really good early 2000s superhero film with a slight modernization, but understanding that it has to be fun, but blend that mix of seriousness, but also be a little cheesy because you have to embrace the comic book style.
Yeah.
Which I think the first two Raimi films excel at. They are like...
Spider-Man 2 at the very least. I think Spider-Man 1 is a bit too goofy at points.
Well, Spider-Man 1 had to be a little goofy.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, it came after... It was one of the first films to come after 9/11. So
yeah, no, I get that.
Movie
I'm not saying I don't understand why it was. I'm just saying, like, as it holds up, I think Spider-Man 1, not terribly so, but...
Spider-Man 2, obviously, I think is the best.
Spider-Man 2 is one of the best superhero films ever.
I mean, because it does have that character study vibe, and that's where, like, I think Lord and Miller really studied that film specifically, because it really feels like that, like a spiritual successor to that type of superhero film, because you understand everyone's motivation of this. Mm-hmm. You understand Miles Morales' guilt, and it's like that beautiful parallel between the two, like Spider-Man, the guilt, the regret that they could have saved more people, that they could have just done more. And in a way, you can make a case that Miles might be more tragic than Peter. It's because he's a lot younger. Mm-hmm. You know, his uncle was a supervillain. Obviously, this is going to be spoiler. But, you know, I mean, obviously, for me, I knew it was coming. I knew that twist was coming. But the fact that I knew it was coming kind of made it more tragic, because I was wondering how the hell Miles was going to react to that.
Mm. I don't know if I necessarily saw it coming. I knew they were going to do something with the uncle where they're going to... I didn't know if they were going to reveal him to be... I forget the villain's name.
Prowler.
I didn't know they were going to do that. I knew they were going to do something with him. I mean, they were like, flashing light, watch out, uncle, bad. But...
Well, I mean, Miles' father is obviously saying your uncle's a bad influence, you know.
Yeah.
You know, he's a bum, like that, you know.
I think it works really well. I think they handle the twist. My favorite scene in the movie, I think, is when the dad is talking to him through the door and he can't respond. It's a really cliche kind of idea, but it works well.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful...
Yeah. Like I said, like it doesn't, just because it's cliche, it doesn't make it bad.
Of course. Like
I found it compelling as hell.
Some cliches just work, but it's beautiful. Like, the father realizes that his son is going to be his own man, and he has to accept that.
Yeah, it's definitely... Well, I think it's more of an idea that, like, the dad realizes that he needs... that Miles needs to figure shit out on his own.
Yeah.
And that he just doesn't know how to connect with him at this point in his life. And that's, you know, it's relatable, obviously, for a lot of people, I think. But it's just well handled.
I think that also addresses some issues, like, in minority communities where there is more of an like a push for more achievement, you know?
Yeah, I don't really know if I'm comfortable talking about that, though, like, as a white person. Like, I couldn't speak to that.
Like, what I'm also saying about that film is just, what I also loved was when you see Miles' father react to the uncle getting killed, and he just flips out like he thinks Spider-Man did it, but you realize why he can't do that, because he doesn't know how his father's going to react to him being Spider-Man. But it's just so much guilt and pain he has to go through, and I think that's the ultimate appeal of Spider-Man, is that he is the type of character, no matter how bad something gets, he just keeps moving forward.
Yeah.
You know, we like, as American culture, we love a good underdog story, and Spider, that's probably why he is one of the most popular superheroes of all time. We love the underdog. As much as we love characters like Batman, who have that almost wish fulfillment brutalizing of evil in a sense, right? We also love the underdog that never gives up, you know?
I think for me, one of the things that makes Miles in this film especially work as a really compelling protagonist, like you're saying, he's an underdog, but they give him really compelling motivations.
Oh, yeah.
I think the idea that, like, he's inspired by seeing Spider-Man, he has a sense of obligation. I think they could have spent, like, maybe a scene or two more, like, delving into that, where that sense of obligation comes from. It works, certainly.
I think they kind of subtly go into that because you saw Peter Parker die.
I'm saying, like, a scene or two more.
So it's almost like the Uncle Ben death, but on steroids.
No, I agree. I think what they have there is enough. I certainly felt compelled throughout the entire film. I'm saying that, like, if they had a scene or two more for that, I think it would have helped. But I understand, you only have so much time.
But that could also lead to slight pacing problems. I'll give you an example of a scene that I really loved, like in a different animated film. Toy Story 1 had a great scene about that.
Wow. No, you really liking Toy Story 1. Shocker.
All right. But there's a really good scene, and you might wonder why this is unrelated, but it relates to pacing issues in film. There's an extended scene where Woody is talking to Buzz, and Buzz is all depressed, and they trimmed that scene down because Lasseter and Umbridge thought that it was leading to a pacing issue and that it was slowing down the film. And you'd be surprised once you get into the editing room about what you thought would really work, how it unintentionally slows.
Yeah, again, I totally get where you're coming from.
So, unfortunately, sacrifices have to be made to make the film.
No, I don't disagree with you there at all. I think what they have works really well. I think that's one thing where it's like, you get it. I think it's developed. I can't talk. I think it's developed enough. I just also, I don't know, a scene or two more. It's a very minor nitpick. I think overall, again, you feel as, like what I was saying earlier, was that you feel his motivation completely.
Also, what I like is how the villains were handled, especially with Kingpin.
Okay, can we talk also, real fast tangent, the designs were amazing in this film, and I love
the
Kingpin's.
Animation is stunning.
Again, when I talked about it feeling like a really good, like, cartoon, and Kingpin's design, I loved it. I felt like I was watching, like, they felt like a design out of, like, the 90s cartoon in the best way possible.
Well, what I also loved, if you look at the animation style of this, Sony's trying to patent this, and this is also a first. This is the legitimately great, first legitimately great Sony animation film.
That's true.
This is the first. This is on par with Pixar and Disney. Great.
Sony, keep it up, man. I never thought I'd give you this many props.
Sony, you've done it. You've hit the jackpot, man.
This was so good, I forgot it was a Sony film.
Like, 1 year ago, these guys did the Emoji Movie, and then a year later they do this. Like, holy crap.
Apparently,
good job.
Apparently,
you stopped sucking.
This film apparently took forever to create, and I totally believe it. Its animation is gorgeous. I watch a lot of cartoons, unfortunately. And, like, I see a lot of anime that try to do the 3D looking like 2D, and they can never get it quite right. This looked incredible.
No, I mean, they've tried to do that for years. Like,
yeah.
Actually, I'm going to bring out an example. They've actually done this before with Spider-Man. The 2003 series. Which actually ties in to the... It's kind of ironic how all this stuff might... Bitch. All this stuff kind of subtly ties into the Raimi film. But this actually ties into the first film. But Spider-Man 1 and 2, Spider-Man 2 and 3 make it non-canon.
Okay. Because
they introduced a lizard, and it becomes, like Kirk Connors, and he becomes a lizard, and then he dies. Which gets retconned by Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
You know? Also, this is just a great show. Also, pick up this DVD set for one major reason. This has all the episodes in DTS. The audio is DTS 5.
Oh, wow.
So, that's pretty damn rare for a television series. Like, to have that audio.
Yeah.
Like, bring DTS back. I want DTS. It's amazing. It's like the best audio mix. But no, we have DTS HD, baby. Duh. Fuck you, give me DTS. It's fucking amazing. I think some of the... I think any Spider-Man thing that really wants to understand that character understands that Peter Parker has a struggle growing up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because of that kind of dweebishness that might make him socially awkward. And he might have a... This might be theorizing too much, but he might be on the spectrum maybe in some way. Or,
I don't know.
No, maybe he's not. You know what? He's just a socially awkward nerd.
I don't even think it's necessarily that. I think it's that he's... I mean, it depends on what Spider-Man you're talking about, but, like... I like the put-upon nerd who eventually becomes the ultra badass is a tried and true thing in fantasy and sci-fi and all that.
But he's not, like, invulnerable. Because he does fuck up. And when he fucks up, he fucks up.
I think good Spider-Man stories always make sure to humanize him and make him, like, a relatable,
it's kind of interesting to
person.
note that Steve Ditko was an Iranian lover, like in that case. But I think his rationale for ignoring Peter Parker's flaw was because he is a youth and he can make mistakes, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
Like, the whole Iranian philosophy is just kind of fucking bullshit, but that's something interesting to mention in a way. But I mean, when you look at really good Spider-Man, which is the earlier stuff or even the later stuff, like pre-One More Day, where he makes a deal with the devil, and that's just a... It's
One more day
that's the most dude, tell me that's not the most non-Spider-Man thing ever. Like, I don't give a damn how far his guilt is. He would not do that.
One day
No, you get what I'm saying.
more.
No, you get what I'm saying, right? He would suck it up and move on.
I don't know if it's that. I think that comic's dumb for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, like... Spider-Man would not go down that path.
Talk about comics I haven't thought about in a long time. One More Day.
That comic is ass, and I need to read more
comic.
modern Spider-Man.
So bad.
I do have a lot of good reference books on Spider-Man, which is how I got a lot of my information I have read.
Can you imagine being that much of a nerd? That you have reference materials on your nerd materials? Have you seen the sun?
What?
Have you seen grass?
Yes.
Have you been outside in the last 10 years?
Yes.
I don't believe it.
You're mean. You're a mean friend. Obviously, if it wasn't too obvious, my favorite interpretation of Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire.
I like Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 the best. I think that it really captures a lot of the depth and the what-ifs. Like, what if everything was dumb and poorly written?
And what if you had a really great...
But what if it wasn't funny bad like Spider-Man 3? What if it was just boring?
Spider-Man 3 actually has some moments. Here's what sucks about that movie. It actually has moments where it was really damn great. And then it just fucks up everything else. Like, seriously, the setup of that movie is fucking brilliant. Because it's like you have Peter Parker, everything's going perfect. And the idea of just everything so perfect that he worked so hard for. And that could just go away like that with his black symbiote. That's a brilliant concept. But the way...
It's not that concept.
No, that is genius. Like, I love that idea. Because people complain, oh, why is everything going perfect for him? I'm like, because it's kind of satisfying to see your hero succeed after so many failures and fuck-ups. That he's comfortable in his own skin. That he has matured. That he has, succeeded. And it would have been really, like, if they... The problem was Raimi didn't want to do the black suit. Raimi didn't like Venom. Raimi knew...
Venom.
I'm not kidding, like, it makes too much... Because look at the first two films. Look at where he succeeded. Doc Ock, Green Goblin. Characters he grew up with. Characters he understood. Characters he wanted to modernize. Right? He grew up... He was a 60s, 70s era Spider-Man fan. 80s, 90s? Like, really, the fucker was working on Evil Dead and shit back then. How does he think he cared about the black suit?
Yeah.
Like, no! That was not his era! You know, you got it, like... If you're a fan...
You're right what you know.
You know, yeah! You write what you know. You take inspiration from what you're a fan of, you know. But, and I think what I really liked about this movie, how it really does, like they kind of have that Sam Raimi style of storytelling with Spider-Man, because it's a really good template to take inspiration from for this film.
In what way do you think they use that template?
I think very much with the analogies with how they evolve Peter Parker, how they really make you feel this is very much a passing of the torch type thing with Peter and Miles, and how Spider-Man is just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And how he has that compelling guilt. Like that awkward as hell scene where he sees Mary Jane. And he's like, I'm sorry. Like, I fucked up. And then Mary Jane has no idea who he is because she thinks she's just some type of waiter because it's the alternate universe Mary Jane. And then Gwen Stacy is like, we have to go.
Honestly, I felt like that scene, talk about pacing, I think that scene went on a little too long. Well, very minor nitpick.
Well, I mean,
I did not care for that scene that much.
Like, here's the problem I have with nitpicks. You can nitpick any film to death.
Oh, I know, but if this film is so good that, like, I really, my only major issues are nitpicks.
Oh, also, what I loved was the fight between Kingpin and, like, Miles Morales and Spider-Man. How crazy that guy. Like,
oh yeah, it's such a good fight. The fight scene at the end was really good.
It's so insane. Like, it
very well
really
directed.
uses, like, this film, I loved it because it really just, like, it takes it realizes that this is animation. You can do whatever the fuck you want with it.
Yeah.
You can do all this crazy, elaborate, comic book-esque stuff that you could never achieve with live action.
One thing I thought was interesting.
Like, if SpiderVerse was live action, it would be like...
No, it wouldn't have worked.
No, there's no way this could have worked live action.
It would have been.
You could have done
it, but
you could have done it, but you would have had to significantly scale it down.
Yeah.
To make it work.
One thing I thought was interesting about the pacing and how they like the structure, like the story structure of that fight at the end. Spoilers is that all the other Spider people return home before the fight is over. Yeah. I thought that the emotional climax was going to come after they defeated Kingpin, and then they would all return. But they saved the fight to be a one-on-one, and I think that does work better. I like that a lot more. I certainly wasn't expecting it, but I'm glad they did it that way.
I also love the idea, like, Morales tells Peter, like, no. You're not going to do the heroic sacrifice. No. Mm. Like, he almost tells him, no, this is the easy way out. Yeah. And you know this is the easy way out. You got to confront your shit. And you got to just make the wrong things right.
I don't necessarily think it was that. I think it was more that he didn't want Peter to not have the chance to, like, live out his life. He didn't want him to die. I don't know if it was more...
It was both guilt in a way. Like, the line that really got to me was when they were both like, I can't stand to see another Spider-Man die. Neither can I.
Yeah.
You know? Plus, just that scene where he's holding on to him. Mm. Like, it is so good how they handled that. Because it's almost like the student becoming the teacher in a way. How that happens at some point, you know? And just how you were really rooting for Miles in the end with his fight against Kingpin. But you also understood Kingpin's motivation. Like, the best hero-villain dynamics are when they have a dark reflection of themselves.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
You know? Like, that's when it's really great. And Kingpin, in a lot of ways, was a dark reflection of, like, Peter Parker and Miles Morales, in a sense. Because they both had that guilt. They both felt they could have saved someone if they just tried a little harder. How they could just go back and fix it. You know, also, we gotta talk about Doc Ock in this.
I really like Doc Ock.
Doc Ock, like, this was Alfred Molina levels. Like, I'm serious, Lord and Miller were like, we're just take from Raimi's playbook. You get Doc Ock back.
Yeah.
You make him a woman. Like, that's one thing that was crazy. Because also, what I watched a little analysis video that someone did, where they went into how they were covering up the scientist's name, and you were kind of rooting for her because you thought, oh, she's rational.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like she's like more rational than Kingpin. She knows the risks, but you don't know who she is, and you're like, no,
yeah.
And when you find out it's Doc Ock, you're like, oh shit.
I definitely didn't see it coming. I think when the scene started, I was like, oh, they're gonna pull a thing with her. but I do really like where it goes.
And it's like, what?
She's having fun in the role.
Like, what'd you say your name again was? Olivia Octavia. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Well, but again, I forget the actress name off the top of my head.
I can't remember the
but
cast names either.
But she does really well.
She took, like, Lord and Miller were just like, here's a bunch of Spider-Man comic books. Here's the first 2 Raimi films. Watch those.
Yeah.
And read this shit to get these characters.
And it works. It's very likable.
Because the villains are likable. You get all the character motivations. And there's only one other nitpick I have. Why the hell is Norman Osborn working for Kingpin? Or is this... No, it's Norman Osborn. I don't get it. But different universe, you know. Maybe Norman Osborn has debt to Kingpin or some shit.
Yeah. I talk about nitpicks. It's...
Right.
The thing is, this movie's so good, all you have are nitpicks. Both of us have our nitpicks.
I mean, that's what makes... This is either the top 2 or top 3 best Spider-Man films, easily. Because here's the thing, if you look at everything past the first 2 Raimi films, the placing of them is kind of like...
It's definitely Spider-Man 2 is still the best.
Even Homecoming has that issue a little bit. Like, Homecoming's great, but it's more of an MCU Spider-Man film.
Yeah, it's not really meant to be standalone.
It's weakened because it's an MCU film.
Well, if you view it as like an episode, like if you view the MCU as like a really good TV show, it's a very solid episode of that TV show.
But if you look at it as its own film,
yeah,
it's not on the level with a Captain America.
Yeah, but that's not really fair.
Iron Man. It's not a fair comparison.
Yeah,
but we're putting it with the other Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
So here's how it was. Here's how it's been for years. Like pretty much every time there's a new Spider-Man movie, except the Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's kind of default. I will slap you. It's kind of default ranking of what's better. Like Amazing Spider-Man 1 comes out, you're like, okay, 3rd best. I once thought that was the best Spider-Man movie.
Really?
Because I was really hyped and I got into it because I was like, new Spider-Man, okay, new direction. I could go with this. And then I rewatched it a few times and I went, this does not hold up. No. I was wrong.
So would you say the top 3 are
top
Spider-Man 2?
The top 3 now are Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, SpiderVerse. Here's the thing, I could easily flip SpiderVerse and Spider-Man 1.
Yeah, they're both really good.
They're both really, because they both kind of established, they're both origin films in a way, and they're both really damn good origin
I would put SpiderVerse a little above Spider-Man 1.
Very slightly, though, very slightly.
Yeah, they're about equal in terms of quality.
I mean, I have a bit of a bias because those were especially with Spider-Man 1, that got me. If it wasn't for that film, I would be the fucking nerd I am today. And the world would be a lot better.
You'd be getting your degree in chemistry right now. You'd be clean shaven. You'd be taller.
I don't think that would work.
You wouldn't have asthma.
That wouldn't have worked either.
You would be Catholic. A lot of things would be different.
That does not make any sense. Oh, did you see the end credit scene?
Oh yeah, I told you about the end credit scene.
I didn't stay for that. I just had to look it up on YouTube. I failed as a Spider-Man fan.
I thought it was okay.
I failed. I loved it.
I didn't think it was
that funny.
It's
like take me back to the beginning, 67, and it's it's a meme.
It's not like it's a bad joke. I don't know. Something about it just didn't hit me.
They used a meme. I love the 67 cartoon because of how stupid it is.
I mean, I love Ralph Bakshi. I will always be a stand for him. He's the one who directed. He also made the Lord of the Rings movie and...
Oh, yeah.
What was the other? Heavy Metal, I think. Animated Lord of the Rings, I love it. It's really bad. Doesn't hold up at all. I adore that thing. It is a hot mess.
What I really loved about SpiderVerse is just that it has the great world, the great origin setup of the original Raimi films. It has the great character study of Spider-Man. That Spider-Man is... and the protagonist who is the alter ego of Spider-Man and Spider-Man himself are not separate. They are the same person. Mm-hmm. You know, they're just their better character traits. It's kind of almost like their real self. Like with Batman, there's a reason why people put Spider-Man and Batman in parallel together, because who's really there? You know, is Spider-Man the mask or is Peter Parker the mask? Or are they just intertwined? You know what I mean? You can't have one without the other.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they're just both a projection of the same person.
Yeah, just depending on who they are, you know?
We all wear different masks. Ooh, look at me, I'm smart. Netflix, give me a season of Black Mirror.
Edgy.
I could run a Spencer's and a Hot Topic.
Alright, so we are eating
so I can
tuna
divide the
steak.
sauce here.
We're eating tuna steak. We have hot sauce. What are you talking about? So welcome back to the video.
There we go.
So we're eating tuna right now, and my friend's getting the hot sauce. Okay, so we're talking about the rest of the movie.
It was really good. I liked all of it. I'm
Um,
gonna go with the one with the snake on it first.
Okay, so I think what do you think the real tragedy of each character is? Like the one line I love is like when they all think Miles can't do it, you know, like
Yeah.
fight the Kingpin, and that he's gonna fuck up, you know, and he's too afraid, and he has to prove himself, like, no, I can do it, like, you know.
Again, I like that scene works so well because it's a tried and true
And it's also
scene,
kind of,
and it's directed very well. Like, it never feels like, oh, I know what's, like, you know it's gonna happen, but you're never, like, at least for me, I still cared. I was still invested.
this fucking bottle is
Yeah.
shit.
I think, again, to
Give me
look back
give me
to...
the other hot sauce.
Okay.
I'm like two assholes eating dinner. Like,
Yeah. To loop back to a point I made earlier, there's not that many new ideas in this film, but they're all done so well, and they're done with such heart that I was compelled. You know, you kind of can guess the beats as they come.
I think
But
what
they're
was really,
compelling.
really good was when you saw Peter web up Miles, you know? And then he's like, okay, prove to me you can fight.
That was really good.
Like, prove to me you can fight. And he's like...
It was a good tuna.
Yeah, and he's like...
Oh, I need to put my phone on silent. Forgive me.
Yeah, and he's like, alright, I'm gonna prove it now. And then Peter just kicks his ass, like, without any effort. And he's like, you know, if that were a villain, he would have killed you. This is the most awkward fucking video I've ever recorded because we're two Jews eating dinner, like...
This is very Jewy. You know, my Torah teacher, this is a funny story, for a few years lived in my apartment building, and one of my favorite stories about that is how passive-aggressive she was that my family wasn't that religious. So, one time she calls me on the phone, she says, Julian, I'm cleaning out my shelves for Passover, because for those of you who don't know, for Passover you're not allowed to have anything with yeast in it. So she calls me and says, Julian, I'm cleaning out my shelves for Passover. I know that your family doesn't keep parev, the term for like not eating yeast. I know your family doesn't like celebrate Passover or keep it. Do you want my bread? Like, she's being nice. She's giving us like free food, but she's also like, you guys are bad Jews. Great story. Wonderful person. I love her to death. But it's a really funny story.
What's I gonna say? The other thing that was really good about the film was when you look at, I have not mentioned this, the What's Up Danger montage.
I did like that scene.
That is on par, like in terms of web swinging sequences. That's on par with a lot of the good scenes from Spider-Man 2. Like, I think all those Spider-Man films. That Homecoming's a little lackluster in this department. Like, even the first Amazing Spider-Man movie had some great web swinging sequences. Like the POV shit. That is still some of the best stuff in a Spider-Man film.
I love the scene where Peter's unconscious and Miles is swinging him through like Manhattan.
Yeah.
That's one of my. That scene is so funny.
He gets his ass, and
It works really well.
And he's like, "What the fuck?"
Credit to whoever came up with that scene because it was really funny. This is good hot sauce.
Oh yeah,
All of you out there, go buy some Garden of Evil hot sauce.
it's fucking good.
The one with the snake on it.
I think that's it though. So, if I were gonna rate this film, probably 10 out of 10. When I say a 10 out of 10, I don't mean it's perfect. I mean like 10 out of 10, I enjoyed it, and 10 out of 10, it's very hard for me to think of flaws that really break the film.
So for me, I definitely would give this high marks. I think it's one of the most successful superhero films I've seen in a while.
You might say it's better than Infinity War in some ways.
I think I enjoyed Infinity War a little more, but to be fair, Infinity War has like 20 other films to build it up, so that's not really fair.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it on its own, this is probably a better film.
Yeah.
I would say like I saw a lot. Okay, so this is how I'm thinking about it. I recently ranked every film I saw in 2018, and it's definitely in the top like 15. I don't believe it cracked the top 10, but I really liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Go to We Love Stories to see what I did put on my top 10.
All right. Live long and prosper, and sub to his channel.
Have a good one.